Hello friends, welcome to the new Gun Penguin video recording studio. What do you think? It's a lot nicer, right? After 3 years, I was getting a little bit burned out of the old format. It was starting to get a little stale, right? So we're gonna try this instead. This certainly looks a lot better. So episodes will now be in 3 parts. We'll have range footage mixed in throughout showing the testing of the gun. Then we'll come in here where I can show you the whole long gun. We won't have to show you pieces of it at the desk anymore. It should make for a much more engaging and informative experience. And then we'll take the gun apart and put it on the desktop. And I'll show you how it's been wearing and the carbon buildup and all that stuff, and show you the mechanics of the gun and, you know, the usual shit, right? And there will still be the music and the outdoor footage and the BDSM horse and all that stuff. But this should be a big improvement, I'm hoping. So today we're gonna do a Q&A video. I haven't done one of these in a long time. My beautiful Patreon supporters have asked me a bunch of questions. They are a beautiful, generous, lovely, and morally bankrupt bunch, and I'm honored that they would support the channel and then take the time to ask me these awesome questions. And this is a batch of great questions. And let's dive right in. Where can we send our gifts of admiration? These macaroni crafts and hand paintings are starting to pile up over here. First of all, I am honored beyond words that you would want to send me stuff. I don't even know what to say. That's crazy that you would like this terrible channel enough to send me stuff. I think the best thing to do here is over on Patreon, I will post the address of the gun store that I co-own with a very good friend of mine. I think that's the easiest way to give you a means to mail me stuff if you want. And again, I am beyond honored that you would want to. Thank you. I'm also eager and terrified to see what you're going to send me. Where, in your opinions, are the best places to skimp on an AR build, and where should you not skimp? It's a very good question. I refuse to skimp on the barrel and the optic, personally. Mil-spec stuff's fine, you know, like the controls, stock, that's fine. You might need a hand guard that you can mount more stuff on, but I really won't skimp on the barrel or the optic, even if the rest of the gun is pretty run-of-the-mill. So AR-15s are very mechanically accurate. Even the cheapest barrel will shoot 4 MOA or better, right? Which is really not, it's not very good for an AR-15. A really good AR-15 is sub-MOA. And like I have several Aero precision guns that are sub MOA with 77 grain OTMs. Since all of them shoot 4 MOA or better, we're not so much worried about the accuracy, right? We're worried about the way heat affects the barrel. So a barrel that has not been properly stress relieved, not only does the group expand as the barrel gets hot, because all barrels the group expands when you add heat. Expensive, cheap, doesn't matter. $1,000 barrel does it, a $50 barrel does it. But a cheap barrel, you'll also see the group wander off in one direction or another. Like it'll wander 8 inches up and to the right or 6 inches straight to the left. That's a problem. At 100 yards, you're probably gonna still hit the target, but at 200 or 300 yards, you may not. So the reason I like the ballistic advantage pencil barrels so much is you're getting a pencil barrel and there's no drift. The rounds don't walk when it gets hot. The group expands, but remember, all barrels do that. They don't walk in one direction or another. I had a cheap Bushmaster back in the day, and it would walk a couple inches off in one direction or another when it got hot. That was a problem. So don't skimp on the barrel. And then optics, don't buy a cheap optic. Why would you? It's the way that you interface with the rifle, even more so than the trigger or the stock. That's the way you relate to the gun is via the optic. It's how you most readily interact with the gun. So the cheapest optic I'll buy is a Trashcan MRO. Pre-pandemic, they were like $350. Great optics. The gun community has some terrible buying habits. We'll buy 5 shitty, cheap PSA AR-15s and a bunch of lousy, I don't know, what's a lousy optic? Pick a lousy optic, something off of Amazon, I guess, or wish.com. I'd rather have one gun, one rifle, a BCM or an Aero Precision with an EOTech, a Trashcan, something like that on there instead. And one pistol, one plate carrier. I'd rather have the Glock with the RMR and the X300 Ultra than a bunch of lousy pistols. So I think we would be better served by having 1 or 2 nice things than a bunch of kind of medium or shitty stuff. So keep that in mind. What do you think are the best always guns out there? By that I mean a gun that you can always carry no matter how you're dressed or the environment, plus best carry methods and holsters for those guns. Obviously, the Glock 19 comes to mind, right? The Glock 19 is the quintessential always gun. It's about the size of a duty gun, so you can shoot it as well as a duty gun. I mean, it is a duty gun in some places. You can also conceal it, especially if you go appendix, which is the way I would probably conceal an always gun, is appendix. If you're trained to carry appendix, you shoot your dick off if you don't know what you're doing. Appendix is not dangerous if you know what you're doing, but if you don't, it can be. And then as far as holster goes, man, nobody can really tell you what CCW holster to buy. You just kind of have to experiment with them until you find what works for you. Be wary of the man or woman who says that they know what CCW holster you should buy. But we want more interesting options, though, than a Glock 19, don't we? We want something more interesting. What about an HK P30 or P2000 or a Walther PPQ? So the P30 is a little bigger than a 19. P2000 is a little smaller. Either one of those would be a great option for a hammer-fired gun, much more interesting than a Glock 19, right? And then the PPQ, we know that's a fantastic gun. So those would be my wild cards if you don't want a Glock 19. What are your thoughts on the various carry methods out there? Personally, I carry 4 o'clock inside the waistband, but a lot of guys carry appendix inside the waistband. And some of the internet commandos think it's okay, but some say it's dangerous when reholstering. Where do you stand on this? Appendix carry can be dangerous, or it can be perfectly safe, and it entirely depends on your training level and comfort level. Let's say at the start of the pandemic, you bought a Glock 43 and you've shot 100 rounds through it. Maybe appendix carry isn't the right option for you, right? But maybe you've been shooting for 20 years. You practice all the time. You can do appendix carry safely if you take some reasonable precautions. So it really depends. If you've had training, appendix is fine. If you haven't, I probably wouldn't risk shooting off my ding dong, right? Right, your ding dong's pretty important to you. Yeah, I wouldn't shoot it off, right? With a hammer-fired gun, though, that's kind of the caveat. You can put your thumb on the hammer and you can feel what it's doing, or you can get a striker control device if you have a Glock. But I think generally a good rule of thumb is if you're trained and you're comfortable, appendix is fine. If you're not, I wouldn't. What defensive drills are best for CCW that you recommend? CCW, I think the challenge is really getting the gun out of the holster quickly and safely, right? So you don't need to practice anything out of the ordinary once you've got the gun out. You just need to practice safely and quickly getting the gun out and then doing your other stuff that you normally do. But there's one exception. A lot of times in CCW defensive scenarios, people have had to fire in unorthodox positions where you don't necessarily have the gun in front of your eye. You know, you might be firing from the hip or from retention or something. So make sure that you're accustomed to the amount of blast that the gun produces when you fire that way, because it feels very different. So make sure you're familiar with that feeling. A lot of hot wind on the old noggin and face. That was a weird way to say that. Yeah, just definitely practice those unorthodox and strange positions. You'll be glad that you did. I think that's largely overlooked, like people shooting with their weak hand. There are a few things that we just ignore at the range because it's not fun, and that's one of them. What's the best value for the money, pistol red dot and rifle red dot? Not in terms of being cheapest, but what is the best quality for someone looking to spend about $200 for each? I'm generally not the guy to ask about cheap optics because optics are very important to me. I'm always willing to spring for good optics. I'd rather not have something else than have a bad optic. Like for me, the things that I spend the most money on are optics and ammo for training. I don't care as much about getting a new gun as I do about training and having the right stuff that I need to train well or train the way that I like to. You know, as part of training, I put, holsters and the right plate carrier and stuff in there too. I get much more out of that training time than I do out of a new gun. The cheapest optic that I really like, that I love, is the Trashcan MRO. I would just rather have something good that's going to last. Have one optic that you're going to keep forever. Just like we were talking about with buying a good rifle a bit earlier. Have one nice thing. That said, though, my friend John, the practical tactical minimalist, has had great luck with Holosun. I trust John completely. If he says Holosun is good enough, Holosun is good enough. I would, without hesitation, say, look at Holosun. So, also my friend Tracy, T-Bone Danger Skillet, he's had good luck with Holosun as well. You should check out his YouTube channel, by the way, and Practical Tactical Minimalist. And also from our Discord, Possum. Good old Possum. He does these 20, 30-second videos where it's just him firing a magazine through a gun. You get a great sense for what the gun is actually like. I love it. For new gun owners, what are things you're seeing that they don't know but really need to know to be safe and responsible? Be careful who you use as a source of information. Let's say you got your Uncle Bob. He shoots 4 times a year. He's got his 1911 in a drawer. That dude can teach you, safety stuff and how the gun works, but he's not a substitute for professional training. He doesn't really necessarily know that much more than you know about guns. He never shoots. He shoots 200 rounds a year, right? What the fuck does he know? Seek out professional training. You need it. You've got to get it if you want to be proficient. Those kind of guys that just kind of like guns, they're not it. They can get you started, but they're not going to carry you to where you want to be if you really want to get good at this, if you want to be able to defend yourself effectively. How did the NRA get such a monopoly on training for firearms? That's a long story, and I can't really recount the whole history of the NRA here in a Q&A, but in a nutshell, folks believe the NRA is an authority because the NRA told them that it's an authority. They spend a lot of money and time on marketing, and then they have this almost franchise situation where they bring folks from your area, trainers, usually guys who work at gun store ranges and stuff, to get NRA certified. And then they come back and tell you that the NRA certification was valuable. So it just sort of feeds itself. But I'll say this, I'll use any opportunity to say the NRA has been terrible for gun rights. They don't give a shit about gun rights. They are a partisan organization that perpetuates conservative policy, not pro-gun policy. The NRA has supported a fucking hell of a lot of gun control legislation over the years, so don't trust the NRA. With the rise of new firearm owners, what does that mean for the current culture? And how do you see this changing over time? And how can we, average people, help with welcoming new folks and encouraging others to exercise their 2A rights? Instead of gun culture, I think you mean just sort of culture at large here, right? I think that we're going to see guns be depoliticized somewhat now that a lot more people own them. So in the past, guns were really common, let's say 100 years ago, so you were accustomed to seeing them. But now there are folks who've spent their whole childhood, teen years, and adult life having never even known anyone who owned a gun. So as a result, guns are these scary things that other people own. You don't have them, other people have them. So they're scary and foreign and weird and you don't like them. If more households have guns in them, they won't seem that way anymore. They'll seem much more like what they are. A simple metal mechanical device that throws other metal pieces at high speed. That's what a gun is. And maybe we'll see them culturally be viewed less as a left versus right issue. Like right now, guns are seen entirely as sort of a conservative issue and a conservative pursuit. Even though demographically that's not accurate. Lots of non-conservatives own firearms. And I notice I'm not saying liberal there because the political spectrum is so much more nuanced than we make it. But guns are not just a Republican thing. I know lots of people, myself included, who are not Republicans and fucking love guns. My hope is that normal people, when the time comes, when the pandemic is past, and they say, well, maybe I should sell that gun, they'll stop and think, well, I had so much fun at the range, I'm not going to sell it. I'm going to keep training. I like the feeling it gave me knowing that I could defend my home and my family from whatever evils may be in the world. I've talked to a lot of folks who are not conservatives who have said they liked knowing that they could defend themselves from the police, for instance. The police have been on a fucking killing spree for the last couple of years. And I know that's also an oversimplification, but the cops are fucking out of control. Don't take my word for it. Look at the numbers. The cops are out of control, and a lot of people have felt far more confident knowing that they were armed in the same way that the police are armed. Other people have said, Well, I know the other side is armed, so I want to be armed. Other people have said, I fear the government, I want to be armed. Other people have said, I'm afraid that society will collapse. Whatever the reason, you're entitled to own a gun. It's a perfectly valid reason. If there's a gun in every home, owning a gun is no longer a partisan issue, and it's normalized. Now, what can you do to welcome folks to the gun community? Just be kind, you know? A lot of gun people are know-it-all, macho dickheads. Don't be one of those people. Be nice to other people. Offer them maybe a few bullets that you got. Share your ammo with them. Let them put a few rounds through the awesome gun that you brought to the range so they can try it out. But just support people, a diverse array of people, even if they don't look like you, even if they don't think like you, even if they don't love the same sort of person that you love, or if they don't view faith the same way that you do. Respect them, love them, show them kindness, let them enjoy your guns, show them around. And I think the Second Amendment in the gun community will grow with time. I also think that we need to support people for whatever reason they bought a gun. Don't say, well, that's not the reason I'd buy a gun. That's stupid. Just say, oh yeah, you know, that's fine. Sure, whatever got you in here is good enough. Have you used a laser dry firing kit at all? No. But I've been watching Deviant Olam's series about laser dry firing on YouTube. It's really good, and he's convinced me to pick one up. Check out that video if you haven't seen it. I think the dry firing with a laser offers some serious benefits. How would one look at durability for a firearm? And how does that differ from reliability? What should newbies be looking out for? Well, yeah, durability is not reliability. Durability is how a gun survives thousands of rounds. Does it break apart? What happens? How does it wear? Reliability is, does it have malfunctions while firing those thousands of rounds? So I have a 1911 that's very durable. Hadn't broken any parts, but it's not reliable. It fucking shits the bed every 200 rounds. So very durable, not reliable. I had a I still have a CZ P10C that broke a striker after a few thousand rounds, but it's been perfectly reliable. So it's not durable, but it's very reliable. So what should new people watch out for? Well, first of all, know that small guns, things like the Ruger EC9S, any little gun, I'm not meaning to pick on the EC9S, any gun in that size class, they don't have the same lifespan as a larger gun. Though 9mm doesn't have a ton of recoil, it still stresses a little gun in a way that it doesn't stress a large service pistol. So keep that in mind. Also know that there are kind of 4 brands that you can buy without worrying about durability or reliability. Beretta, HK, Glock, and Walther. Those are the 4 that I recommend. For me, have been relative to other brands mostly trouble-free. I highly recommend those. You almost can't go wrong with those brands. What are your thoughts on the striker control device for Glocks? I think it's kind of nifty, but some think it messes with the trigger pull. Well, I don't know if it messes with the trigger pull, but if you feel like you need it, just get it. I mean, yeah, it's not going to hurt anything. And if it makes you feel more comfortable, especially maybe reholstering appendix, maybe if you're a newer person and you don't have enough training, you still need the training, but maybe you could look at getting a striker control device to help yourself feel more comfortable. Listen, anything that works, just get it. If it's going to work for you, if it's going to make you feel more comfortable. Other people may shit on those items, but fuck them. Just buy it and use it. What are your thoughts on the Beretta 92X? Well, I think it's great. I'd love to have one. I think I'm going to get one if the ammo situation is better in 2021 and I can get back to testing things the way I like to. I'm going to get one of those and have Langdon cut it for optics. I wish the 92X had front cocking serrations, but other than that, God, I just love it. Do you have a subscribe star? And what are your thoughts on claims that Patreon wants to control content and is too anti-gun? I'm sure Patreon is anti-gun. Most companies are anti-gun. And yeah, and I know what you mean though. I've heard the same things, but I'm not in this for the money. I'll stay with Patreon just for convenience because y'all like it until the last minute when I get the fuck out of here, kid. If I depended on this more for income, yeah, I probably would switch to Subscribe Star. But Patreon's been fine. I haven't had any issues so far. YouTube is also horribly anti-gun. I don't know how long gun channels will be on YouTube either. What are the best surplus pistols for carry and home defense. For home defense, I would go one of the double stack 9mm, like the Beretta 92S or the CZ75. Now, I'm leaving out like police trade-ins, because you can get just like a regular fucking Glock, you know, police trade-in. We're talking about like real military surplus here, right? You guys think we'll ever get any military surplus U.S. Army Berettas? Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to have a real U.S. Army M9, wouldn't you? Now for carry, I'd probably say the best ones are the Makarov and the CZ70. The CZ70 is a little single stack 32. It's super cool. But the Makarov, man, that's the king of the concealed carry surplus market, isn't it? That thing's just, it's great. I have two. I bought them from the Mosin crate. If you're not buying your surplus from the Mosin crate, you fucking should. I love Alden. He's stuff's always exactly as described. He's a lovely human being. So yeah, and the Makarov is, the round is not super potent, but it's a little more potent than 380. It's not as potent as 9mm, but I mean, God, it'll get the job done. And 32 will as well. Though we're going to talk about 32 after this. What are the best 32 pistols, old and new? New, our options are pretty limited. You pretty much got the Kel-Tec little thing, pocket pistol thingy, and the Beretta 30-32 Tomcat. I've had great luck with my Tomcat. It's a great gun. I love it. I shoot it all the time. It's got the flip-up barrel. Even if it weren't the only option, I'd still be telling you to get one. It's great. Now, if we want to talk about old 32s, though, oh man, sky's the limit. Walthers, CZs, God, Brownings, just fucking name a brand, Colt. 32 was a really popular cartridge back in the day, and you know, it's still more popular in Europe than it is here, but it's a lot more potent than people give it credit for. And it has such a gentle recoil impulse. Have you ever tried shooting 32? If not, you should give it a try. But I think the absolute best older 32 is the Beretta 81 Cheetah. And oh God, how the fuck did I forget that for a concealed carry? Let's back up for a second. The best concealed carry surplus pistol is the Beretta 81 Cheetah. 13 rounds of 32 ACP. It's small, it's amazing, decent trigger. I love it. But yeah, it also is my favorite older 32. Now, some people say that those are still in production in Italy, that you can still get the Cheetah model, the Cheetah series. I see them new occasionally turn up on Gunbroker, but I don't know. They're effectively out of production as far as we're concerned here in America. Yeah, best 32 pistols. I'm going with just Beretta across the board. Those are the best 32s. Pick a Beretta in 32. You've got yourself a winner. What do you think about the most common surplus pistol calibers for serious use, like defense, you mean? 32 ACP, 7.62 by 25, 9 by 18. You've got listed here. 32 ACP, you know, I think it's fine. So what do I like about 32 ACP? Well, the recoil impulse out of a steel gun, it's like 22, so it's like a bullet hose. You can just get the rounds out of there so fast. I'll do a video one day where I take the Beretta 81 to the range specifically to show the speed so that you can see what that looks like. It's amazing, and it's perfectly adequate. So I think 32 fills in this great gap, especially for people who don't like hard recoiling calibers. They love 32. So I'm sorry I just gush about it all the time, but I really feel like it's the forgotten defensive caliber. And I know some of you are rolling your eyes right now. 32 is so weak, but damn it, there's still a place for it. 7.62 by 25, though, is a very potent round. Just let me catch that fuzz out of the air. 7.62 by 25 is a perfectly adequate self-defense round for sure. It'll fuck some shit up. Like that's a powerful round. And the 9x18 Makarov. Again, perfectly adequate. There's a reason the Russians used it as a service cartridge for so long. Relatively a manageable recoil, about on par with 380. Perfectly fine. There's some good defensive loads for it. 9x18 is the round that I've trained with the most during the pandemic. I've shot thousands of rounds of 9x18 since all this mess started because it was readily available and affordable. And it's fine. It really is. It's perfectly adequate. If you could unrestrict one NFA item, what would it be and why? Machine guns. because they'd pave the way for everything else. And it would mean that I would get to have a submachine gun. I love shooting submachine guns so much. The MP5, the FNP90, the MP7. Well, I've never shot the MP7, but I love submachine guns. So I would get to have a submachine gun, but it would also pave the way for everything else. The media portrays machine guns as the most destructive, terrifying thing that's ever been created by man. If there are a lot of machine guns in circulation, all of a sudden people see, oh, these are not scary at all. They just are guns that shoot real fast. And that would pave the way for suppressors and SBRs to be deregulated as well. So I vote machine guns. And speaking of voting, did you vote? I have not voted yet. I will be voting actually on Election Day. So yeah, they're taking appropriate precautions at my polling place. I'll be wearing a mask and I'll have hand sanitizer and all that stuff. With we'll be appropriately distancing ourselves from other people, and I will be casting my vote then. But yes, I do not miss elections. I will be voting for sure. How do you feel about the recent Supreme Court chaos? Do you support Barrett and the way her placement has been handled? Quick history lesson first. So both sides are saying you always wait until after an election, or no, it's the president's right to get the nominee in before the end of his term. Both are correct. There's a precedent for both. So it's so stupid to fucking listen to people argue about this. Some presidents have gotten a nominee right in at the end of the term. Some, in some cases, it's been passed on to the next president after the election. I detest Donald Trump, but he's within his rights to nominate her and get her in. I mean, there are other presidents have done it. But here's what pisses me off. All of the Republican senators who blocked Barack Obama from doing the exact same fucking thing 4 years ago are fucking hypocrites. Like Lindsey Graham in particular was like, I think we should always wait until after an election. I would never want a president to sneak somebody in at the end. Oh, really? Oh, really? Well, how about now? That's what really pisses me off about it. Now, that's that issue. The other issue is Barrett herself. I don't like Barrett. I view her as part of an increasingly worrisome problem with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has come to represent the partisan nature of American politics. The Supreme Court is supposed to be a body free of political bias. They're just supposed to interpret the law and interpret the Constitution. There's not supposed to be the introduction of any political bias from a justice, but that's not the way we do it now. Conservative presidents choose conservative judges, and liberal presidents choose liberal judges. And that's fucked up. So the assumption is, regardless of what they may say in their testimony, every nominee says, I'm going to just interpret the law. Yeah, that's what they say, but they don't actually fucking do that. That's not the way it works. And so it is with Barrett, because we can look at what Barrett has done in the past. We can look at her record on the bench. We can look at her statements to the media. Based on her public comments, we can see that she has a conservative agenda. And she's going to bring that with her to the Supreme Court. Surely she is. That's why Donald Trump selected her. He said on multiple occasions that he was going to select justices who he felt like would carry his legacy forward. And what a fucking legacy, right? God. But I want to be really clear about this. Though I lean left, I don't like that left-leaning justices are chosen either. I don't want to see politics in the Supreme Court, whether they are politics that I agree with or not. Politics do not belong in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is an interpretive body. So what will it mean having a Barrett on the bench? Well, this isn't just because of Barrett, but having a conservative court, we're not going to see Roe v. Wade done away with, I don't think. But I think we will see the whittling away of abortion rights. I think we can pretty safely say that, mostly because Kavanaugh intimated it, while Barrett outright said in the past that she was in favor of the sort of slow erosion of abortion rights in lieu of just doing away with Roe v. Wade. That frightens me. And then you couple that with this conservative court has refused to hear Second Amendment cases this year. What does that do for us? So women lose rights, we don't gain any Second Amendment rights. Like, what's the fucking deal? There's no winning here. This is really just bringing fundamentalist Christian ideals to the bench, and that's not the way this is supposed to work. We're a secular nation. Regardless of what you may have been taught, we are a secular nation. And I think that Barrett has a skewed idea of what America is. So anyway, this is the longest, most rambling fucking explanation. I'm sorry, I'll try to edit this down so that it's less of a mess. But those are my thoughts on Barrett. What are your favorite and least favorite shooting or gun scenes in movies? And explain why the "Hey homie, is that my briefcase" scene from Collateral is your favorite. So first of all, Collateral is awesome, and that is a great scene. Michael Mann in general, Jesus Christ, he makes some great movies, and he knows his shit when it comes to guns. He must be a gun guy, right? And in fact, I'm going to go with a Michael Mann movie. Heat, The Shootout. That's probably my favorite. I also love the super over-the-top scenes in John Wick. Like, they're just so ridiculous. I love them. I love John Wick. I love the shooting in John Wick just for how insane and unrealistic it is. It's fantastic. You know, people praise the realism of the gun stuff in John Wick, and I'm like, the fuck? Like, it's really not, but that doesn't mean it's not amazing. And it's so stylish. It's almost something to aspire to, you know, if we could only look so cool when we shoot. So I love John Wick, and I love the way the shooting looks. It's amazing. Let's think of one more here. Die Hard, for the same reason as John Wick. It's just crazy looking and insane. The scene where Bruce Willis shoots the German guy through the table with his Beretta. It's just excellent. I just love it. I love it. Die Hard's amazing. How do you feel about the future of the gun community in the U.S.? Well, before we talked about culture at large, and now we're kind of talking about gun culture, I think that the gun community is about to get a lot more diverse. You know, I hope a year from now, the folks that have bought guns during the pandemic keep their guns, and I hope we see people of every gender, culture, ethnicity, sexuality, faith. I hope all of us are coming together at the range and learning to love each other and get along and share our hobby with other people. I also think that this will make it so that the training world gets a little bit more diverse. Wouldn't you like to go and hang out with some trainers who are not just like white dudes? That's what I'd like to see, right? So I hope that's a change. We'll see. I hope that also, you know, the gun market will get a little bit more diverse because there will be a wider array of tastes for companies to cater to. That'd be really fun, I think. So I'm very, very optimistic about that. But it depends on everybody keeping their guns. The reason I'm worried is, what if the gun community does what it does best and alienates these new people, and they're like, "Oh, fuck this, the pandemic's over, I'm gonna sell my gun. I don't like this training thing. I'm getting rid of this fucking gun." That's what I don't want. I hope that we are nice and welcoming and tolerant and generous, and I hope those people stick around. But I'm afraid we won't be, because I've already seen people in the comments under my videos, people complaining about different people coming in, taking over their sport. Fuck that. The sport's stronger when there's more people in it. Don't be isolated. Anyway. What is the origin and future of BDSM horse? What is the complete lore of BDSM horse? Well, BDSM horse is a disgusting, vile creature that has appeared in pretty much every Gun Penguin video and will continue to. I think on the Gun Penguin Discord, we came up with this really complicated backstory and lore for the horse. So if you're interested in that, sign up on Patreon, join our Discord, and find out all there is to know about BDSM horse if there's something terribly wrong with you and you just need to know that. What firearm have you most disliked shooting? There are two that come to mind. One's more of a type of gun. So first one, the easy one, the Springfield XD. I just fucking hate the way the grip feels and the trigger. I just hate it. I hate the Springfield XD. It's a piece of shit. And this is when a bunch of old guys pop up and are like, "The Springfield XD is the fucking best gun. God damn it. You're not going to say anything bad about it." The Springfield XD is a piece of shit. And then the other one is just 9mm blowback PCCs in general. In the year 2020, people still won't just make a roller delayed gun or, I don't know, invent some new clever mechanism. It's still just blowback, where it's a heavy thing on a stick with a spring that moves back and forth, pushing rounds in and out of the gun. It's horrible. And a 9mm blowback PCC has more recoil than a 5.56. So you're shooting a fucking 9mm with all this recoil. It's so stupid. If you want to see something funny, when I complained about the recoil under in the CZ Scorpion video, you should see the reactions people had to that. Like, lift weights, god damn it, I love my CZ, it has no recoil. Yeah, but these people, they were getting so mad. And yeah, it really is. It's about as much recoil as a 5.56 gun, a small one, if not slightly more than that. It's just horrible, horrid. We've got to do better than that. We shouldn't be using technology from the 1920s to run our modern PCCs, right? We shouldn't be. So yeah, I dislike that one. This next question is complicated, but very important. Do you have any pointers for attempting to cull toxic masculinity, murder fantasy, bloodlust, and casual outright bigotry in the 2A community, both in person and online, without setting yourself up to be a target of those who are violently opposed to objective cultural improvements? I don't mind being a target, because those folks are using that fear to keep what they have already. So first, let's talk about masculinity. Masculinity, femininity, somewhere in between, or neither. Those traits are not inherently negative. They aren't inherently anything. They're neutral. Toxic masculinity is this inflated sense of what a man ought to be, that's almost like a social affectation. You know, these guys who feel powerless get together and create this sort of subculture amongst themselves where they behave that way. That's not masculinity. It's being a shitbag. These guys feel like they have lost whatever they had, and what they had was power over everyone else. They were the dominant group in every way, and they'd kept it that way, using fear, intimidation, poverty, other methods of economic control, bigotry, chauvinistic behavior. They had controlled the people around them for years and years and years, generations. And that's coming to an end, and they're scared, so they're lashing out. And what they've built is this ideology that says they're better, they're smarter, they deserve the control, because that's the only way they could fucking justify this in their minds. And they're seeking to continue to desperately cling to those things because they're fragile. They're scared it's going to go away. They are terrified that they're actually just small people with small ideas, and they are. They're tiny, tiny little men. And they know that deep down. So they've built this constructed affectation to try and cover for that. It's really sad. It's the saddest thing. When I see one of those guys out somewhere, I just think, God damn. Like, it's so embarrassing. Like, does it not make you feel really uncomfortable inside to have to look at it? You know, and they found each other online, and they've all gotten together, and they walk around making the cuck sound. You're fucking cuck, goddamn cucks. They need you to stay afraid, because that's the only method of control they have left. And that's why they assault people verbally. Sometimes they physically assault people. That's why they insult you online. That's why they call you names. That's why they curse at you. That's all they have left, because they think that works. They think that sort of intimidation works. But they've lost. And it won't become apparent to them that they lost until we tell them we're not afraid of them, until we tell them they've lost. So fuck that. You know, we need to fucking nut up and tell those motherfuckers that we're not afraid of them anymore. Laugh at them. Show them how embarrassing that shit is. Show them. It's shameful the way they behave, the things that they do, the way they speak to other people, the way they view women, the way they view people who don't look like them or behave like them or dress like them. It's fucking shameful. The only way they're going to know that, and the only way it's going to stop is if you show them. So tell them how embarrassing it is. Tell them how fucking stupid they look and how stupid they sound. Don't be afraid of them. So I'm a target. Come attack me. Come attack me. Please, you're welcome to it. I look forward to it. And last of all, how difficult was the process of becoming a gun store? Not just the FFL, but the state regulations, distributors, etc. It was tough. Me and my friend worked on this for months, like hours a day in the last stretch. I remember there were a couple of weeks. It was just all I did from the moment I got up until I went to sleep. It's hard. They've made it very tough to open a gun store, by the way. Very, very, very tough. Senselessly tough. It's just more government red tape to try and discourage the sale of guns as much as possible. The hardest thing, though, was just getting inventory, as you can imagine, because of the shortage. And dealing with distributors. The way distributors work right now is it sucks, frankly. But it'll get better. 2021 will be better. I want to say this. If you're considering opening a gun store because you want to get in on this pandemic rush, you want to cash in and make money, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You have to do this because you love guns. The market's going to tank after the panic buying wears off, and unless you've prepared for that, and unless you're in this for the long haul, you're gonna be pretty fucked. So do this for the right reasons. Do it for the love of the game, and you'll be fine. But if you're doing it to get rich quick, it's not going to work that way. Gun stores during non-pandemic times are not particularly profitable. You just got to love it. So thank you all so much for listening to this bullshit, and thank you for writing these questions and for supporting me and for caring. I really appreciate it more than I can express to you. Y'all are awesome. I love you very much, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I will talk to you soon. Good night.